so that you can keep in touch with each other. And you'll notice there's a phrase on there about being the watchman. And my hats are off to all you pastors, because as God has said in this thing, if the watchman does not sound the alarm, the blood of the people will be on that watchman's hands. So you have taken on an awesome responsibility. It takes courage to take on that role as a watchman. So, and Deneen and her husband Tom have taken on that role as well. And we're so proud to be with all of you tonight. And you'll also see two booklets on your Awakening 2012, the obligation of faith and the duty of citizenship. And Prayers for America. This is a copy of the event that we did earlier. And we hope to do another one and make it larger next year in Delaware. And also for the pastors, you'll see on there the Pastor's Council. And in there is a guide to what you can and cannot do in churches when it comes to politics. And it gives you a lot of information and context to help you through that process. So if you have any questions during the night, please stop by and ask. Clint?
Thank you. This item now, Fisker is a venture of Kleiner Perkins, which is probably over $100 billion venture capital company out of California. And so is Bloom Energy. It's a Kleiner Perkins company. So what's going on here, and Tom Borelli is going to speak to this, is we've got our money being invested by our legislature and the administration, picking a company over another company and this technology over another technology, as opposed to letting the free enterprise, as messy as it might be, fight it out on the level market-based playing field. Our first speaker tonight, however, is going to be on another subject, and that's going to be education solutions. Jim Hosley, our colleague over there from Rodney Institute, he's director of our Education Excellence Center, and he's got some interesting remarks.
In conclusion, I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you, John, for letting me to speak to this group. I'm very honored to do that. It is something special for me. I am not a teacher. I'm not an educator. I'm a person who spent over 40 years in manufacturing. And I've watched the quality of our graduates go downhill every single year. And it's sad. It is very sad. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about one guy. His name is Hines. He was a young black belt, 23, 24 years old. We hired him because his brother was there. This is Center City, Columbus, Ohio. There are two factories there. Good opportunity. $10.50 per hour. After he'd been there about 6-9 months, he'd get to about 11. The shift differential may get to $12 an hour. Plus benefits, good career, stable company. We ended up firing him. And when they came to me, they said, you know, why should I keep you? You know, the kid, he's had errors, he had absenteeism problems, he had socialization problems, he had problems from the day he walked in the door. We kept him for 2 years. Plant manager brought him in to me, and I wanted to review all the cases that we terminated. I said to him, why should I, give me a compelling reason for keeping you. He jumped up, raised up his shirt, and he'd been cut from here to here with a scar. He turned around, and he lifted his shirt up, and he had, what he said, 18 pellets in his back, a shotgun. Okay. He had a high school degree and couldn't read. Okay. We agreed to keep him on. We ended up firing him about 6 months later for dealing drugs. Okay. That's the condition today. So what I'm going to talk to you about, we're going to talk about some statistics. But it is not about statistics. It's about Hines. Okay? And that young man, the last I heard, he was on the street and he'd been shot again, and I don't know if he's alive. Okay? So he touched me very deeply, and when I finished up in Columbus and I came to Delaware, and Caesar Rodney Institute asked me if I wanted to have an opportunity to work in education with them. I said, yes, I do, because it's for Hines. And you people in this room are essential for making the changes that we need to have made so that those young men and women can have the opportunities that they need in the industry today. Okay? So I'm going to go through some statistics, I'm going to go through them very, very fast, because I know you want to get the name, which is, much better than I am. And, but let me give you some facts. I want to talk about Florida. Why Florida? Because there's some really great things going on in some of the states around here. Florida happens to be one of them who's been working about a decade on this. And the reason I like Florida isn't that their results are all that much different today than Delaware, because they're really not. The difference is they've come a long ways, they've made a lot of progress, and they'll be the first to admit that they have a lot further to go. But what I like about them is everything they did was simple. Everybody knows everything we seem to do in education is really complex. You can't understand it. I have never seen a field that is studied more than education and less done. I was talking to Dennis and we were talking about wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge plus action. We have a lot of knowledge about education, but we sure don't have any, particularly here in Delaware, we don't have any progress to things changing. And it's not going to change until we get the local communities energized. And it's pastors and community leaders that are going to make that change. So what did they do in Florida? Florida has 2.7 million students. We have 125,000. So they're a lot bigger than we are. They have a majority of minorities. So it's another very interesting one because the most underserved population is the Hispanic and then the black population when it comes to education. Right? So what did they do? Well, they did something very complex. They required competency. Pastor Wilkinson, I don't know if you know him or not, he's a theologian and pastor. He wrote the book of Jabez, and he tells a story about how he had one class where he had high expectations for because they were high performers, and another class that were just in general, he didn't have high expectations. And guess what? His expectations came true, except the class that he thought was high expectations was not. They were all the same because they had blended them. So they expect competency, and what they did is in third grade, they put a rule in that says there's no more social promotions. If you cannot read that grade, you cannot move on. Why did they do that? The Casey Foundation has done a study, and what they found is a direct correlation between dropout rates and reading capability in the third grade. It is the only common factor that they had for reasons for dropout. Because what happens is they do the social promotion and they pass them on, they get to fourth grade. Well, guess what? The grade requirements have gone up. So now the student who's not performing anyway at third grade level is never going to perform at fourth grade level. They're going to get worse at fifth grade level. They're going to get worse at sixth grade level. So the pipeline to dropouts goes to third grade. So what did Florida do? They put a rule in system. Well, we're not going to promote you. Okay? And their dropout rate has gone down since they've done that. But more important than that, the contribution that those students are making throughout to being able to get jobs and being hired is a lot better than when they were passing them on before, because they cared about what they were doing. They required high school seniors to demonstrate basic competency in reading and math. That's basic. I didn't say proficient. I just said just basic capabilities to be able to do that. I worked in manufacturing. Okay. Guess what? If you're going to be manufacturing, you've got to read SOPs. All right? You have to figure out and solve problems. You've got to have the basic competency. So I'm going to move quickly on. And that was an example of the types of things that they've done. High school accountability for results. You hear a lot of conversation in Delaware about accountability. Florida did something about it. You know what they did? They eliminated their system of rating, went to an evaluation system that said it's A through F. A is the best, B is not quite as good, C is below average, D is a problem, F is failing. Every person in the state understands A through F. And guess what? When your school gets rated a B or an F or whatever it is, they know. They're starting out, there was over 600 failing schools. D and F, I shouldn't say they were just failing. And of the A's, there was only about 400. Now there's over 2,000 A and B schools. Okay? Because it was simple, easy to understand. They created incentives. bonuses for teachers. And as part of that, this is a really complex one. They did a Florida partnership for minorities and underrepresented students. Okay? They gave them all free SAT tests and scores, tests in the 10th grade, so that they had something to work with so they could go to college. That's good. They created a professional development program for teachers to teach advanced performance. Okay. They created a family literacy program, not a student literacy program, a family literacy program. Things that you as pastors deal with every single day. Not just the one, but the whole family. Okay. They created a bonus program for teachers, and I won't go into it, but they paid them to be able to take and get $50 for each student up to $2,000 they got that passed the AP test. Now, that costs money, okay? Florida spends $7,000 a year. Okay, how much, pardon me? Per student per year. How much do you think we spend? Yeah, almost 17, over $16,000 per year. Okay, now they're getting the same results, and they've got a lot of progress. Okay. The average charter school in Delaware is 10,500. And they're getting far better results, particularly in the minority community. The advancement, in fact, there are some studies that show that in the white program, they actually go backwards. In the minority, the black and Hispanic, and low socioeconomic groups advance. Okay. They also put in a system in Florida that says, we're going to rate each school, as I said, A, B, C, D, and that system says you're proficient, and it's in reading, math, writing, and science. You're proficient, but in reading and math, they measure progress. And then they get 100 points for each category, and the lowest category they have is the bottom 25%. That's weighted equally. It doesn't matter whether that bottom 25% has moved from here to here, because then they have to make progress, and that's part of their evaluation system. Okay. So you've got a lot of the statistics in there. Oh, I forgot one other very important fact. They gave choice. You know, they gave a variety of different ways of satisfying the needs of individual children, from pre-K vouchers to the McKay program with students with disabilities. Their students with disabilities today outperform the general population in 21 states, general student population. They have charter schools, tax credit scholarships. Okay, well, tax credit scholarships, that's taking away from the public schools or whatever. Well, we can go into that, it really doesn't, and that's a whole other discussion. But why is it important to be able to go to a private or parochial school? On average, private and parochial schools outperform public schools on testing. 12 points in reading, 18 points in math, and 12 points in science. Now, the score, what results are they getting? I gave you some of them already. Delaware, Florida reading has increased, where it's now 15 points above Delaware. Every 10 points is one grade level. There are 1.5 grade levels ahead of us in Delaware, and they spend about $10,000 less. We do. There is no correlation between spending. There is a correlation between loving that community and loving that student and wanting that student to be successful. You know, I'll go through the reading scores and just say they're in the back of the book. In reading, blacks underscore by 19 points. That's 2 grades. That's an 8th grade. That's a 4th grade level. I use that because of the first statistic they had with the dropout rate. By the way, the study is showing that even when they graduate with a high school degree, they're 4 grades behind. Okay. Why does an employer want to hire a black? They got a high school degree, they're behind by 4 grades. Okay. This is serious stuff. The Hispanic is by 20. Okay. Low income, that is if you qualify, if you're eligible for the food program. And that's how they classify it. That's anywhere between 1.25 and 1.75 of the minimum income for the state or the country. And they scored 20 points below. Now here's an interesting statistic. Asians score 6 points over. Okay? And the not eligible for the food supplement program scores 2 points over. Okay? Now to go to math, I'll just read this, 28 points below. Blacks, Hispanic, 20 points below. Asian, 17 points over. Okay? Low income, minus 24. Science, this is 8th grade. In 8th grade science, minus 27, minus 22, plus 8 for Asians. Minus 23 for low income. Okay. So the message is this. And then, by the way, those statistics have been going sideways in Delaware for the last 5 years. You know, not being proficient in reading has been 34 to 36%. I'm sorry, being proficient has been 34 to 36%. The rest of them are basic or not proficient in reading. Math is 32. Science is 23, 27%. So the message is, we've been going sideways. We've got barriers for it. You know, what are the barriers? You know all the community ones far better than I do. Well, I'm not even going to try to talk about the community one. What I'm talking about is caring for that student and developing programs for that family and that student and giving them the choice to be able to take and get the best education for their child that they can. Now, there are barriers for them doing that, and I'm going to be very blunt. One of the barriers is their own Department of Education. We have for every one teacher, we almost have one administrator or person sitting in Dover in a Department of Education. There's 1.1 administrative person for every 1.1 teachers. Okay. There is one superintendent or administrator every, that was total, that's everybody in the division. Superintendents and administrative people, one for every 4 teachers. You'll hear statistics that talk about 1 in 15 student ratio. We go on the website and you read the class size. It's 22 to 25. It's not that. It's about $400,000 per. So we've got to do something about, we can talk more about that, the Department of Education and the Department, the Delaware State Education Association. Your child is not the focus, their interest is. So, together, people in this room, the local community, can make a difference. And that's all I want to say is if you work together with any of you, if you need any help to help improve this program, I would be very, very happy to welcome you.
We have a Q&A afterwards, so if you could possibly hold your questions, please do so. And unfortunately, I cannot. Give us some encouragement. How many years did it take Florida to turn their vote around?
Well, they've been working at 10 years, kind of thing, but they really started making progress. I'd say it took about 4 to 5 years, and you begin to see it move up.
Yeah. So this isn't, we can fix this.
Oh, absolutely, no question about it. But we have to fix it. We can't wait for the future.
Melissa and Pat raised their hand, and Rob and Jason. If you see these 4 people afterwards, if you're interested in working on an education proposal, we have to stop asking the politicians to fix the problem. We have to fix the problem and take to the politicians to tell them, this is what we want.